Okay, hey Wabbit, welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you tonight? Let's see. So I've set a few things up differently here. As you can see, I got online chat now on the stream. That's new, and I actually have a whole bunch of stuff I want to talk about tonight. Whole lots of stuff. So, Waldorf. We'll talk about Waldorf and we'll talk about stuff. So, I want to start. I'll get to the main topic momentarily. Your ears are ready. We'll see if my mouth and my fingers are. So the first thing, this is kind of an ongoing topic, but it seems to have reared its head again over the past couple of days. And one prominent synth tuber has kind of asserted in some way that, or seems to have asserted in some way that if you're going to be a synth tuber, you kind of have to be a shill. And I don't agree. Now, I've not looked at a lot of the response. There's been a few other videos, other people responding and ranting and raving about it, and people are always ranting and raving about about folks who do live streams and talk about music stuff, and talk about gear and talk about soft synths and all that kind of stuff that everyone is shilling, and maybe that's true to some extent for the folks who are making their living or a portion of their living from YouTube. But I don't even think some of those folks need to be shills. I certainly don't need to be a shill. I'm not making a dime from doing YouTube. I'm doing this for fun. Some days it's more fun than others. Some days it's less fun. But it's part of it's an extension of my hobby of making music. And sure, I mean, I've been a professional musician for over 40 years. I have made a fair sum of money in the local music business over the last 40 years. But I don't relate my YouTube channel to that in any way at all. I don't get stuff sent to me. It would be nice, but I don't get stuff sent to me. I either buy it or use the demo version, or for a while, and decide if I'm going to buy it, because that's what demo versions are for. So I don't know that this whole shill thing is. I think it's a lot. Let me sidetrack for a second, real quick, because this is equally true. This whole issue of folks giving glowing reviews of things in exchange for getting things is not. It's not limited just to music or musical stuff, like as some people seem to think it is, and it's not even limited to life on YouTube. I mean, this is going on. This accusation of reviewers has been going on since well before the internet even existed. I remember reading photography magazines and reading the reviews of lenses and cameras and various other gear when I was young, and in the letters to the editor section, there would always be at least one or two letters of somebody complaining about the reviewer's bias towards the product. So I mean, this is nothing new. Like, people seem to make out that it's something new. And apparently these people haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to the world, and it's in every area of interest. I see it in music, I see it in photography, I see it in model trains, because those are my three primary areas of interest outside of work. And it even goes on in my professional life. I see people. I see people give reviews in industry mags, and the same stuff comes up. So it's a thing, and yeah, Wabbit, it's gone back forever. It's nothing new. Like, every song has been played once before you write it, somebody else wrote it. Before the Beatles wrote it, somebody else wrote it. Before Michael Jackson wrote it, somebody else wrote it. There's only so many ways you can combine notes. There's only so many chord progressions. There's only so many chords in Western music. And Eastern music's got its own thing, own similar thing. So I see a million photographs of somebody standing in the middle of an intersection in New York City shooting straight up as an airplane goes overhead. It happens all the time. A million people have shot the bullet going through the balloon. One trope image after another, one trope song after another. People copy each other in the model building hobby, and you see everything every 20 years or 15 or 20 years, somebody thinks they invented something new, and an article gets written about it in a magazine. So, I would say, Wabbit, that it even goes back before the 1800s. I'd say this goes back as long as there has been a product to sell and review and talk about, then somebody has been shilling it. Now, there are a few prominent synth tubers who have been accused multiple times of shilling because they never give a bad review. And if you follow these folks regularly, they'll tell you about it. They say, if it's not something that I like, or they'll say if it's not something they like, they don't review it. Now, I don't know that that's the best policy. I think people need to talk about subpar products in whatever industry, or at least perceptually subpar products. And I think manufacturers need to be willing to listen to the lumps and take the lumps. And they turn out something that isn't up to par. And people need to talk about it. That's the purpose of the review. And so that's my rant on shilling for now. Maybe we'll come back to that another day. I don't really, unless some conversation comes up, I really don't want to take too much more time on it tonight. Well, anyway, that's it. That's my chatter on that. So let's get on to the main topic that was the slide, that I said I was going to talk about, and that is wavetable synthesizers and VSTs, and do we need any more of the damn things? And I don't know if I have an opinion on that yet, but I did a little count of just VSTs that I could think of quickly, or with a couple clicks of the mouse here and there, and I came up with straight. I put them into kind of two categories in this mental list, or actually I wrote it down. I put them in categories that I would call the multi-engine workstation, and then there's some that have some special features, and then I put it down to the regular wavetable synth that may have like one other feature or one other engine or something like that. So we'll start with those. Those are well, actually, no. Let's start with the big workstation style. Do several things. Do most of them well. And so I came up with what a half. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. About a half a dozen of those. That are workstation or have special features that make them go beyond just being a wavetable synthesizer. And again, these are all VSTs, all software, in no particular order, just the way they popped into my head when I was thinking about it or doing some searches. Pigments, Arturia, probably one of the most popular at this point. And let me, before I go any further, I will be. Since I'm talking about products, I need to say that I'm not sponsored by any manufacturer or software developer or anybody that I may mention. I'm not sponsored by anybody but myself. I have not received anything that I am using on the channel for free. Nothing has been sent to me for review. These people don't even know that I'm talking about them behind their backs tonight. So, that out of the way. Pigments, Arturia, is one. Current by Minimal Audio is another workstation class soft synth. Phase Plant from Kilohertz, UVI's Falcon, Omnisphere from Spectrasonics. That one's got a unique talent in that there's a fairly good list of hardware synthesizers that can be used as custom controllers in Omnisphere, which is kind of a neat feature. Finally, in that list, the Korg ModWave native plugin. And I list that because it is as a plugin, as a VST or standalone, it is a wavetable synth. It also can do samples and some other things. The other thing that kind of put it into that class of special ones is its ability to share patches back and forth across with the hardware version of the ModWave. And then another note is that it like many wavetables synth plugins these days, can take a serum sample or wavetable directly without any modification. Which moves us into the list of regular wavetable synths. We've got Serum. We've got one that I talked about a few weeks ago, Universal Audio's Opal, Yuhi's Hive 2, Vital. Native Instruments has Massive or Massive X now. Waves has a thing called Codex. ADSR has something called Sector. There's one out there called Wavemeister 2. Soco Labs has something called Wavetable. That's original. Waldorf has three current wavetable synths and plus one. They've got PPG Wave, which is an emulation of the original PPG Wave, first wavetable synthesizer. They've got something called Waldorf Nave, which looks really interesting. And they've got Largo 2, which includes, as part of its package, the original microwave, the original Waldorf microwave rack mount unit, hardware synth wavetables in it. So that's three. And so that brings up the question, if Waldorf has three wavetable synths, one of which already does the microwave, why do they need a new one to do the microwave? I don't, I'm not clear as to why do we really need yet another Wavetable synth, let alone 4 from Waldorf alone. Nothing against Waldorf. They make fantastic instruments. They make good software. Largo 2 did not have the reception I think that they had hoped. But anyway, that aside, so there's a lot of them. There's a whole lot of them. And Nave is on iOS. It is also now on. It's also now a VST. It's also now a plugin. So it's both. So Waldorf, when this is what got me started on this, when I saw this thing come out from Waldorf, they now have their new one, and I'm going to do some things here so I can look at the screen big. Hopefully I won't forget to do some switching and stuff so that you can see what I'm looking at. But let me pull up. Well, here, we'll do this. I'll go ahead and take that, and go. Okay, so you should now be looking at any number of things on the screen. There we go. You've got the chats up, which probably looks like garbage. So we will get rid of it, or try to, and that's good enough for now. So let's take a look at this new synth and see if it's, see what we think. So first thing I'm going to do, I've got this channel. It's running a little sequence, and I've got Valhalla Supermassive behind it. Let's close that window anyway, and I'm going to jump over here and gracelessly disable Valhalla, because microwave here does not have any effects of its own. So we're going to listen to it clean, and I'm going to take out Vital and the OP6, or the OP6. So all we're going to have up now is Vital, or microwave, and I will stop the sequence. Okay, so at first blush, this is looks like a fairly run-of-the-mill wavetable synth. It's actually, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to go ahead and put this up, and I'm going to put the chat back up so I can sort of see what's going on here. If I do that, yeah, that looks awful. Can't see that. So I will have to look away, try and keep an eye on what's going on there. So as far as this getting close to the Waldorf microwave, it is the Waldorf microwave. I mean, that's to the point that this synth, or this soft synth, can actually control the microwave hardware, which is kind of an interesting reverse twist. Usually you have a hardware interface or a hardware device that can control the software. In this case, we can control this hardware with the software, and not meaning just pushing patches over to it, but if I've got this connected to a microwave, which which I don't, and at the price I won't. But if I grab hold of a control, if I grab hold of this guy here and twist it around. If that were on, if I were connected to an actual microwave hardware, I would have actually changed the wavetable on the microwave. So the microwave is it's an interesting device, and this is not an uninteresting plug-in. And again, I'm going to put it up full screen. On my screen, you're seeing it already full screen. So where this starts getting a little weird in my mind is that it has two oscillators. Well, first let's go. It's a Wavetable Synth with two oscillators, a filter. It's got an envelope for moving through the wavetable. It's got a filter envelope. It's got a volume envelope. It's got a couple of LFOs. Like I said, a single filter. It has no mod matrix per se. Everything is right here on the front, or almost everything is right here on the front panel. So the mod matrix is inherent to the design of the user interface. So we got oscillator 1, oscillator 2, filters, pretty run-of-the-mill. This has apparently done a really nice job, though, of modeling the analog filter that was in the original. Excuse me. The envelopes are analog on the wave, so they're modeled here in software. It does micro tunings and different velocity tables and stuff like that, and it's got a multi-mode. In this particular, right now I'm not in a multi, but in multi-mode, just grab something at random here. There we go, this guy. So this one's got two instruments, as they call them. So yeah, Wabbit, yeah, why I would rather turn the physical knob. Now the microwave. Now I'm getting your joke. Yeah, we won't get fried getting too close to the microwave. Anyway, yeah, I mean it's kind of a weird thing. I guess where they're going with that is you can be designing a patch for the microwave hardware using this as an interface and hear it in real time. I think that may be what the advantage is, because the actual microwave has got, I mean it's a rack mount box with a knob and some buttons on the front. Eternian, hey, welcome, thanks for coming. So there's so anyway, you can have multiple instruments, and so an instrument is made up of two oscillators and a filter, and the stuff that goes with it. So you can have multiple instruments as part of a multi, but each instrument is part of the multi. Only gets played. It's not like you can send. If you've got 8 instruments in your multi, it's not like you can put one on channel 1 and one on channel 2 and one on channel 3, MIDI channel 1, 2, and 3. Hans, welcome. So it's the multi is more like being able to have all of these things in one patch. So you can combine instruments in a patch, but you can't control each instrument separately. Which is kind of not multi-timbral in my mind. I mean, yes, it's multi-timbres, but multi-timbral to me says that I can control each one individually. Like, for instance, in Waldorf's world, the Blofeld, where you can have 16. Allegedly 16, although don't send it to MIDI channel 10 to any of them. So I don't. Anyway, so their multi-mode to me is a little weird, but it's interesting. It does let you do some neat stuff. And I'm gonna try and see if I can find one that's got a whole bunch of a whole bunch of that one's only got two, a whole bunch of instruments in it. And everyone, there we go. This one's got four, so if I play this, I've run into a problem tonight too. I've played with this, yeah, here we go. I played with this during the jam over the weekend, or on Sunday. I had this in my mix. Did not run into this. Tonight I'm having a real big hung voices issue. So let me try changing which controller I'm sending to it. Maybe it doesn't like the Control S for some reason. Nope, those three voices are stuck on. So that's pretty neat. So with them turned off, of course, it's kind of weird the way they're reacting. Anyway, so that was kind of a weird thing that has hit just today while I was fooling around with it. So anyway, interesting synth. So here's where it starts to get a little weird in my mind. We have two oscillators, but we only have one we only get one wavetable. Now, the two oscillators can be looking at different parts of the wavetable, but you get one oscillator. And to me, that's a little strange. You get one filter. So I on the one hand, I get that Eternity wants me to get straight to the point on this. So straight to the point, I want to like it. It's got some sound things that I like. I don't. It's faithful to the point. Hey, Eric, welcome. It's faithful to the point of even reproducing the flaws of the original instrument, and the flaws are down to, it was an 8-bit. The samples were 8-bit, and so there's a lot of aliasing, especially high up the keyboard, and this reproduces the aliasing perfectly. So as from that standpoint, if you want the sound of a microwave, this is a good way to get it. But you could also get it in something more modern, and that's kind of where, or a more modern architecture soft synth. Because when you get into, like I said, Largo 2 includes all the original microwave wavetables. It also includes the Microwave 2 and the Microwave XT wavetables, which this does not. I had a discussion online with somebody earlier. It was Haslow, and I were discussing this on Discord, on SynthSeeker's Discord the other day. We were trying to see if we could find original XT or Microwave X wavetables. And what I've come to discover is that the way the wave and microwave work is they don't have fixed wavetables per se. Less is more. Less is different. Wabbit. Again, if what you want is the microwave in software, then this is it. If you want microwave capabilities with some other stuff, then this isn't it. And again, one thing that Waldorf has done is they have they have made it so that it's really efficient. You can have a zillion different wavetables, and you only need to store 256 bits of wavetables, because you can take if you get into what's in a wavetable in here. Let's see if I can. And I've only had a few hours with this, so I'm still figuring my way around it. But so this wavetable called Resonant, that we've got up on screen now. This one called Resonant. This wavetable here is made up of all of these factory waves, and at each point, this is wave 101, this is wave 69, this is 70, 71. So there's a whole list of them, and as you move through the wavetable, you get between each one of these. You morph between each one of these. Pretty neat idea. It allows you to edit and make custom wavetables based on these factory bits and pieces, and there's a huge number of them. But so it's kind of a unique way of doing it, and it's efficient. I will say that it's a very efficient way to store or to manage or be able to manage a huge number of wavetables and take up very little space in the memory, which at the time that the original microwave came out, memory was not cheap. So it's kind of it's an interesting way to do it. And as I said, it sounds, I'm at risk of making the thing take off again, it's nice and lush. At least in this patch, and I'm going to have to tell it to stop. And like I said, this just popped up today. I was using this on Sunday afternoon, evening for the Jamtava Jam, and it didn't give me a lick of trouble. So I'm not sure what's going on here. And not all of the patches seem to do it. I had found one that was behaving itself. One of the singles was behaving itself, and well, I can't remember if mine stopped working or not. I've done a few of these myself, just learning it and playing around with it. I keep wanting to play the wrong keyboard. Yeah, they're stuck on. So you get all kinds of neat motion like you expect with a wavetable synth, and I did a couple of my own actual wavetables. You can build your own wavetables in this, and but this fun new thing is really kind of. This is a bug that I'll have to report because it's brand new. So my question is, how would you compare this to say ModWave? So I think ModWave, the ModWave is it's unique. It does a lot, and I don't have it. I had the demo for a while. I had at the time opted to not buy it when it first came out, and I could get a deal. So I had ModWave. I had ModWave native, and ModWave. So ModWave is in some ways more like what I would consider a normal wavetable soft synth, in that you've got two oscillators. An oscillator has its own wavetable or sample, or it can be a sub. It's got its chain, and the mod wave in some ways is like half of a wave state, except that it does wavetables instead of the sample sequencing. So you've got each oscillator, I believe, has its own filters, its own LFOs, it's one lane in the mod wave can be a complete instrument. And so you can have two instruments. I don't remember if in the mod wave you can actually make it bitimbral, fully bitimbral, and put each one on a separate MIDI controller or MIDI instrument. I can't remember that. So, so here's where I start to question if we need, at the top of the segment here, I listed 20 different wavetable VSTs or 20 different wavetable plugins. And so I start to wonder, and there's many, many, many more. I mean, every time I turn around, there's somebody else has cranked out another wavetable plugin. I think the folks that make Traction have one. I'm pretty sure Steinberg's got one. Ableton has one built included with Ableton Live. So at least at some level, you may have to have standard or more, but I don't remember if it's included with the the basic versions. But everywhere you look, there's another wavetable synth. Why this one now becomes my question. And is it worth $150 when you can get ModWave Native for $150? You can get Vital for free, or it's donationware essentially. So but I go through this list. Hive 2 is under $200. Opal, under $200. Serum, I think, is $200 or thereabouts. The other ones from Waldorf are in that price range. So it's like, why? I question why, and if this is necessary. If I were so in a direct answer to your question, Eric, I would say ModWave is far more capable than microwave. For any number of reasons. As I said, you're manipulating two wavetables at the same time. You can load user samples to it. There's no sample playback capability at all in this. You can't load your own wavetables to it. You can create wavetables with the bits that Waldorf give you, but you can't load your own wavetables into this. So I can't grab a Serum wavetable and dump into here, for instance. Whereas with most others, including ModWave, I think you can grab almost any wavetable you can find on the internet and jam into the thing and have a good time with it. So, that's my question. And so, what do you think? Does the world need this? And why do when there are a plethora of excellent wavetable soft synths on the market already, why do people keep putting out more? And so it just seems like too little for too much. I don't know. If it were $50, it'd be a no-brainer. I'd buy it in a heartbeat. But it's not $50. It's $150, and you know, it's, I don't know. It's like I said, it sounds good, but you know, tonight it's developed a bug. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why. You know, and I'm not to say, that's not to say that other software doesn't have bugs. I mean, you know, it's software. It's going to have a bug. That's kind of sort of the nature of software in a lot of cases. Um, Dragon's Horde. That's true. Yeah, yeah, right. Or Horde. Yes, they do. Um, so, you know, I would say that, and Wabbit, to your point, yeah. I mean, if I go through, if we look at my list of VSTs over here, and I will say I've trimmed it way back. But if we look at the VST3 instruments now, I'm down to just these manufacturers. You know, I have a chunk of Arturia because I really like Arturia stuff. Um, I've got the ones from all the ones from Dawson because they're awesome. Um, that's sequencer Korg. I've got two of the three. I will at some point I will probably get Modwave. I got this thing which is I use I use it more than some of the others, but I don't use it as much as I would like. Um, that's for controlling the modal synths or dealing with the modal synths. I've got the whole Native Instruments world. These are the ones that I happen to have loaded. Um, I'm fooling around with this um, thing that Steinberg put out for Yuhi. I've got Diva. I've got Podolsky. I've got Zebralet. I also have Hive 2, but I honestly wish I hadn't bought it. Um, I don't, it and I don't get along. Um, my go-to at this point is Vital. You know, my go-to for Wavetable. It's either Vital or Pigments are the two that I use 95% of the time. Yeah, Hive UI it's dense. You know, yeah, you don't need to dust them. That's exactly right. Exactly right, Wabbit. You know, so you know, I can put the chat up at the moment too. There, I got that cool thing going. So, you know, anyway, that was the thing, you know, and I saw a comment, another show comment come up. I want to roll back, look back and see if I can see that. I do. It scrolled off. Oh, here's Schiller No Show. How does something sound? So, you know, back to Wabbit, and yeah, I got some adjustments to make for the key level for the icons. This was kind of sort of a test. I don't have a really good way of doing this at this point. You know, you only get part of mine when I type in there. Yours disappears, Wabbit. I think let me get this off the screen. Yeah, Eternians goes away. Hans's shows up pretty. It looks pretty good. So there's actually, yeah, Eternians, he has scrolled off the top. Let me do this. I can make a bigger version of it pop up here. Downstream source chat tall. There we go. So Eternians comes out well. Oh, and I've got this. I wish YouTube would not default to top chat. I want the whole thing. I want to see everything. Boom. Okay. These are actually it's perfect. The scrub shouldn't show. Oh, okay. Okay, I see what you're saying. So, no, I want people's icons to show up completely. So that's an adjustment I'll have to make. This has been an experiment. The whole thing with getting the the chat up this way is kind of kind of an experiment. I'm doing it. My insistence is that I don't use OBS because I'm just that way. So it's fun to, yeah, it's fun. I think having the chat up at some level makes the hangout a lot more fun. Especially when, you know, especially when the show first gets published back to YouTube, it's not got the chat doesn't show up, and so for the first 24 hours or so, people have no idea what we're yammering about or what I'm yammering about. Unless I remember to read the question and then answer the question. It's like having a VST and the hardware for it. Yeah, sure. So anyway, if I were going to give a smash or pass kind of rating on this thing, on Microwave One, I would have to say I'm going to pass on it. It's a pass. I don't think it offers enough to make it worth the money, at least not for me. Especially since Waldorf's own more versatile software will do the same thing. And I think the price is within dollars. I mean, it's not like the price difference between them is big. I don't think. Let's look. See if I can do this without blowing things up. So I'm going to open that up. Oh, that makes clicky noises. Wow, that's interesting. Opening Chrome just slams the CPU. Neat. So you can't see what I'm doing at the moment. I'm typing in Waldorf Music into the browser. Let's do this. I'll let you guys. We will look together. So I'm going to take the chat out while I'm doing this. So in answer to your question, Wabbit, and I'm going to switch the stuff around. I'll come back to it. But in answer to your question, you don't often hear a shill pass on something. I've heard some reviewers take passes on things. So there becomes the difference. What's a reviewer and what's a shill? Where does this go in that whole discussion of the people doing their thing on the internet? Let's see. Here we go. So let's get down here to software. Okay, so Largo 2, which has the which has the microwave wavetables in it, is $149. Microwave 1 is going to be $149 when it's off introductory sale. Okay, so same price. Largo 2 does more. Okay, Nave. The Windows version of Nave, $149. PPG Wave, $149 euros, whatever. 149 monetary units. All of their larger, air quotes, larger synths, soft synths, have a price tag of 149 monetary units. So I'm back to wondering what's the point. Don't know. So anyway, that's my take on this Waldorf thing. And I'm obviously not a shill because I put a few weeks ago I put Opal up on the thing, played with that, squashed my system. I said to heck with it. Yeah, or buy an iridium. So of course I closed the window. I would love to have an iridium, but not at. I can't afford it. Let's just put it that way. I'm not going to say that it's not worth the dollars they're asking because I believe that it is. I believe the iridium. There's a few out there that they're asking a fortune for them, and you know what? They're absolutely worth it. The iridium is one. And there's a few others, that I can't think of off the top of my head. So there's my that. Easy affirm payments. Yeah, you still have to have the money to back up the affirm payments, or the Sweetwater card, or the Synchrony Music General card, or Visa, MasterCard, American Express, whatever. You still have to be able to make that payment at the end of the month, or each month. And I am mostly I am mostly happy with hardware that I have. There's only a couple of few things that I regret buying, and a couple of few things that I wish I had, wish I could buy. And so, I'll probably sell off the stuff that I regret and buy the one or two things that I wish I could buy. A nice reasonable plan. I gotta say, and yeah, largely, I am thrilled with the stuff that I have. Look at this. Who would not be thrilled with a Polybrute and a Take 5, a computer full of top end software? Oops, got the wrong one of those up. Make that get small. There we go. I've got an Op6 over here, over there. There is a wave state here. It's not in the system at the moment because I don't have I'm still waiting for Dan to tell me if he's at Tall Dog to tell me if he's going to do another run of those racks, and that's will be part of the determining factor as to whether or not I keep it. My favorite hardware. Let's see. My favorite hardware. If I had right now, if money were not an object, and someone said, you can go buy one synthesizer, you're going to have to give up the rest of them. Okay, so we're going to put a lot on this requirement. What would replace, if money were not an object, and I could buy one synthesizer? I would probably buy a Polybrute 12, honestly. My favorite synthesizer in the studio today, the one that I go to the most, the one that I have most fun with, is the Polybrute. I absolutely love the Polybrute. Now, when you hear me playing, when I'm doing a jam or when I'm playing, the one I play the most is probably the Take 5. With the Polybrute being a close second. The Polybrute is great for building foundations, and it does some. It's semi-bitimbral, or it's semi-bitimbrality, allows it to be a really, really versatile basis for pretty much anything you want to play. Um, yeah, workstation. I've had workstations. I had a Korg Kronos, Kronos 2, and I bought it for gigging, um, and it was a wonderful instrument for gigging. I do not know that I would want to use it as a workstation. Um, and now they're hawking the Nautilus as its replacement as their top end workstation, and I think Korg has lost their minds. But that's another story. I should have some stuff playing in the background while I'm running my yap. So let's do that. At least get some bleeps and bloops going. Get some stuff coming up off of, let's see what's what here. What do I have? No, that's not playing anything at the moment. Oh, well, at least something's playing. If I were to choose a workstation today, Eric, if I needed a workstation and I wanted it to be good at sound design, my first choice right now would be one of the Yamahas, the new version of the Montage. I think it is. I know that in the past I have kind of sort of railed on Yamaha for not doing a whole lot beyond beyond the SY77 and SY99, because the montage and the Modi X are essentially gussied up SY77s and SY99s from 30 years ago. AWM2, AFM2. The newest incarnation of the Montage now has the AN1X engine in it as well. And so, quite frankly, with that collection of parts in one box, there's really not much you can't do sonically. There are some restrictions in being a workstation and trying to do everything in one box. There are some restrictions about how certain types of sounds work in the Yamahas. Those are restrictions that, if you've been dealing with a Montage much past a motif, or from a motif on anyway, and maybe even some before, you're used to. But certain types of instruments can only go in certain slots, and certain instruments take up more than one slot. So you're playing a juggling game there. I think compared to the big Nords, I think the Yamahas offer more. I think they offer more capabilities. Nords, I think, are fantastic performance instruments. And I think that's really what Nords are primarily geared toward. I think they're geared more towards performance than they are towards being a workstation per se. The Nords don't. None of the Nords have sequencers in them, I don't think. At least not multi-track sequencers. You can't lay down a whole song inside a Nord. And so to me, that's kind of sort of one of the requirements of a workstation. You need to be able to sequence, audio record, do the whole thing. Now, that said, from a performance standpoint, the Nord Stage or the Nord Electro 6 Now series. Um, Man, they are great instruments to play on stage. I have used the Electro 5D. A friend of mine has one. And I filled. I kind of sort of did some sit-ins in the band he was in, and so I've played that. I also used it when I was practicing with that band some because they practiced at his house. Um, Fantastic instrument to perform with. I would love to have one of the analog modeling ones, the Nords. It can be the desktop unit. It's fine. Doesn't need to have keys. Um, the Yeah, and so if you're not you don't have to be a keys player to be able to um, take really good advantage of at least the Yamahas. So a Yamaha, either Modi X or Montage, and Ableton Live and the Push would be an amazing combination. Um, and if you wanted to take, you have to go through some machinations. But if you wanted to take your show on the road and didn't want to take the computer, um, the Push, especially a Push 3, but the Push and the Yamaha would make a great combination. Now I've kind of sort of um, you don't have to. I've left the Roland, the Phantom, out of the conversation purposefully. Um, Phantom, if you're an Ableton user, the Phantom can talk back and forth to Ableton at the project level or at the live set level very well. My discontent with the Phantom is that when you buy a Phantom, you have to if to get all of the functionality, you need to start buying plugins for it. You know, um, whereas the Montage, the Yamaha and the Korg. Well, the Korg you can expand, but you don't have to. I didn't have any expansions for my Kronos, and I was never wanting for anything. You can buy expansions you can buy expansions for the Yamahas, but I don't think you need to. But if you want the full on analog synth emulation engine for a Phantom, it's an extra purchase. If you want the full versions of several other instruments or instrument groups, it's an extra purchase. As a DAW controller for Ableton anyway, it's probably the best of the bunch, but I'll take the limitations of the Yamaha because it comes complete. Can't make music in work. Yeah, it's making music in workstations, in modern workstations, which I would think would be improved, is clunky. I mean, it's just plain clunky. And my comparison as workstation sequencer clunkiness goes back. I'm comparing it against an Ensoniq VFX SD from decades ago. That thing, laying down a sequence, composing a song in the VFX SD, or later the SD1, was any of the Ensoniqs with a sequencer in them was just it just made so much sense. And hardware sequencers now in most workstations, to me, hurt my head. And that even includes, that includes the Korgs. And if you visit my website, if you hop over there, and let's see, this is going to break some stuff, but if you go to my website, now's the time. I guess now's the time for me to do the thing here where I come over here and I take that out and I do this. this and this and this, that. Bunch of buttons on the new Stream Deck, so that this thing comes up and says like and subscribe and gives you the website address. If you go there, there's a whole series of articles on my website about my love-hate relationship with Korg instruments. I've been using them since 1990. Keep going back. As much as they've driven me up a wall. I think the Kronos was the best designed instrument Korg has ever come out with the Op 6 running a very close second. I've played the Kurzweils, the K2000. I've played it. I think the piano sounds and some of the other sounds, strings, are astounding. I think they're beautiful. I can't get around the instrument. I get lost every time I sit one. What don't you like about the Op 6, Hans? I'm curious. Because it's the clearest path to FM I've ever seen in my life. It makes FM no static at all. As this, it really is a. I think it's really a great FM instrument. Yeah, I mean it sounds like a FM. So you had it for 6 weeks and sold it. What didn't you like? Because I will say, unlike Korg's other software versions, the software for the Op 6 I think is really clunky. I think the other ones are pretty elegant. So I'm curious as what you didn't like. The quality, you didn't think the quality compared to the DX7? Huh. Interesting. See, I will give you that the keyboard on the Op 6 is horrible. I mean, having taken my Op 6 apart now and having taken mine apart, the key bed is a piece of junk. It's going to break. It's designed to fail. Now, as far as this, you're saying the sound's hollow. It can be as ballsy as you want to be. People say the Polybrute is thin, and people have been saying that the Take 5 is thin. They got balls. They're in there, and they will. They can sound as full or full and punchy, and they sound every bit as good as a DX7 into my ears. Let's see. Eric doesn't reach his Op 6 either because of how the power works. Oh, so yeah, so the heck is that? I think somebody's riding a motorcycle out the street. Anyway, yeah, so yeah, the power situation on all three of the Korgs it's a byproduct of it being a Raspberry Pi or any number of other computer-based synthesizers. You need to. They need to be powered up and powered down. Let's see. Trying to make jams with it. Bit weak next to the vintage. Use 5 synth in each song. Op 6 didn't fit in. Now, if it's not fitting in with the kind of music you're making, then that's a perfectly viable, that's a perfectly valid comment. It fits in fine with what I make and pretty much anything. I mean, I find it to be pretty complementary to the kinds of things that I do. So yeah, okay. But I think it's still a fine sounding synth. It can sound exactly like a DX7, honestly. And you convert the patch to the DX7 patch to the Op6, load it up, you'll hear the same sound. You know. Oh, thank you, Hans. I appreciate it. Appreciate that. Now, so most of the stuff you've heard has not had the Op6 on it. But most of the stuff that you've heard of mine, Hans, is all done in the box. All of the ones that I did for the Kumite were done in the box on the dining room table with a laptop. No, it's just a thing. Let's see. Let me do this. Find this thing. Ooh, where'd it go? There it is. Apparently it's turned down. Yeah, it is. I got it on this one. Oh, there it is. It's playing a little sequence. That's coming off. That low part is coming off the Op6. And that's actually a factory patch. Now, so there's a question. How there's the whole discussion about software versus hardware. And what's are musicians who work in the box and work with software really musicians, or are they not? Do you have to have real instruments in order to consider yourself a musician? I know what my opinion of that is, but to me they're all you can. This preserve versus sound design debate. You'd rather have an op synth than use soft synths. Okay. Fair enough. I've been doing the synthesizer thing in one way, shape, or form since 1981. When I got my hands on my first real synthesizer, or my first synthesizer. And I've told the story some in the past, but it was in '81. We were where I was going to college. I was invited to help rewire the electronic music studio, and we had a big Moog in there. And so that was my my physical introduction to synthesizers was a big modular Moog. And man, that was wonderful. I go so as far as using sounds, making your own sounds versus presets. I mostly, let's see, let me not lie. No, I mostly either make a sound from scratch or I may modify a preset. Very little, unless I'm just dashing something together to get some ideas. Very little of the stuff that you hear from me is an unmodified factory patch. Only 4 of your synths have memory. 5. So fraud. Just kidding. Joking. Um, you know, there's a thing so here's the thing, Hans. Part of what I enjoy about all this is sound design. I enjoy it as much as the jam. Maybe in some ways more. And I will 20 have no memory. So I'll spend 2 hours in here making a patch or sound, some sort of sound with either the Take Five or the Polybrute. Not save it. Turn the thing off and go away. And because I've always enjoyed sound design. Now, if I come up with something that I really, really like, you better believe I'm going to save it because I might use that for something later. And the same is true with soft synths. I'll goof around with Vital for an hour and hey, that sounds good. Maybe but still not save it. I'll do the same thing in Diva or any of the other soft synths that I have. I've got no. I don't always need to save the thing. Unless I've got a particular reason for it. And yeah, I mean that's and I may have that attitude about it, the modular attitude, so to speak, with everything being transient because the first synth I touched was a modular, and so. You can hear the cockatiel in the background. He's singing his song. He's singing the song of his people. It's nice to be able to sit down at a synthesizer, dial up the sound you need without really having to fight the thing, and be able to. Be able to make the sound you want. I'm almost there with the Polybrute. I'm pretty much there with the Take Five, and I've had the Take Five longer. Interestingly, my first synth, a real synth of my own, was a Prophet 600, and I have the Pro 800, and as familiar as I was with that Prophet 600, I struggle with the Pro 800 sometimes. It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same functionally. Now my Prophet 600 came and went before Gleegly came. So it was an original, and I basically have my Pro 800 set up to be an original Prophet 600. So I wonder why I have problems with it, because it does sound exactly the same, and so you have a good comment there about our wives being cool with what we do. That's one of the reasons I like software synths so much. My studio is set up. The studio itself is running on a desktop machine. Famously replaced the highfalutin laptop I bought that didn't do work worth beans. But I still have most of the software loaded on that laptop. I'll sit out in the dining room or sit out with my wife, and I'll do sound design, and we can be together. Or I'll make a song or whatever. We're still sitting out there together, and that's something that I really you can't easily do with. I can't drag the Polybrute out to the living room. It lives here in the studio. So Let's see. You guys are having a good chat. I'm running my mouth. You guys are having a good chat. So yeah, I mean, something like the Syntakt is great for that too. Um, I had I had an OPZ for a while that I didn't get along with. The idea for it was to be able to do that. I can do that a little bit with the tracker. Um, I don't do it as much as I should, but I could. I usually just sit down with the laptop and twiddle away. Um, I don't think I could get away with having my studio in the dining room for a number of reasons. But so I've got, I have my room, and you know, I don't. My house also is not would not be conducive to having a studio in the dining room. Um, Listening for sure. Okay. Um, yeah, that's what. So as far as listening, lately we've been both my wife and I have been sitting there in the room together with earbuds in, and we yell at each other because we can't hear each other. And it's like, are you listening to something? Are you online? But it's still we're sitting there together doing the thing. I wish I could make that little heart thing go away. So it's I'll say I really love being able to grab the laptop and hang out with my wife and still make music while she's writing. My wife is an aspiring author, so she's writing stuff and she's working on she's also got a little side business she's getting started. So she's working on stuff for that. I'm working on music, and we can do it together instead of our house is not set up either in such a way that we could both have a combined workspace. So we each have our we have our rooms, we have our work rooms where we can retreat. I can do my stream. A lot of times when I'm doing this on Monday nights, when I'm doing a stream, she's doing a group, like a Zoom call or something like that at the same time. Um, so you need the DAW. Yeah, yeah, both. Um, and I think being inspired by VSTs, um, yeah, I get that. I get that. To me, the VST is a tool, you know, um, and it's a malleable tool, but still a tool. Now, occasionally, I'll hit a sound in a VST that it does become inspiring. The sound becomes inspiring, but unless I've got a keyboard controller, because I am, I've played keyboard instruments for over 50 of my 61 years. I've been playing since I was a kid. So the way I express is with the keyboard musically. I mean, I can do entry into a DAW and blah, blah, but I much prefer, I much prefer playing a keyboard instrument. Um, and that's why, that's why in my studio there are 4, at least, physical keyboards. You know, 2 controllers, 2 instruments, and because that's where that's where I can see the notes. I can feel the notes. I can feel the music that way, and it's VST effects are fantastic because you can get all kinds of great effects, and you don't need a huge rack full of stuff, full of expensive stuff. Um, One of the things that I think helps a lot as far as being able to emote well with software synths is having a good controller. I think that's key. If you don't have a good controller, then you're not going to have great results with the VST. Now, there's work involved in some cases getting it to work, but that's where, you know, that's why I have the controllers that I have, because they talk very well to the software that I have. Everything has been chosen to work as much like an actual instrument as possible. You know, and Hans, you've not seen some of the earlier videos or streams, excuse me, where I've, you know, talked about the process of choosing the Native Instruments Control S, and then subsequently also adding the Arturia Keylab. But these two controllers are so tightly tied to the software that it's pretty near as good as having a hardware synth, as far as control is concerned, and the especially on the Native Instruments, the keyboard is wonderful. You know, it's got poly aftertouch, and it's beautiful. It feels good to play. It's, you know, it's a good instrument. And then the Keylab, the keyboard's not quite as nice. It's the same one that's on the Poly Brute or the Matrix Brute. But the controls are beautifully laid out. Yeah, there's latency, but it's if I were talking video, I would be telling you sub-frame, but it's way sub-frame, because, you know, frame of video is 30 some milliseconds. The latency in my system, if I'm in the studio, in my studio, the latency's MIDI instrument latency is about 6.5 milliseconds. At least that's what it tells me. I can't hear it. Now, audio latency is round trip, and it's because of the interface that I have. I don't have the best interface in the world. My round trip audio latency is still under 20 milliseconds, and so the processing in my system is done on the computer, and even with the computer that wasn't performing well enough, the performance issue did not have to do with latency. You know, it's incredible. It's responsive. I'd say it's as responsive as my Kronos was. You know, when I hit a key, a note comes out. You know, now this computer it's a Ryzen 9 7000 series, a Ryzen 9 7900X. The previous computer that lived in this case was an old Ryzen 5, and it was fine. You know, the latency. The computers are fast enough to do pretty much anything we want them to do. That's not where the issue. That's not where the issue lies so much anymore. It's in the converters in your interface that's where it takes time. Eric, thanks for coming by. Good to see you. Thanks for the chat. And I'm probably going to wind down pretty soon too. I've been on longer than I had anticipated again. I schedule these for an hour to an hour and a half and end up going, well over most of the time. So Hans, my interface is actually a mixer, and not a particularly highbrow one. I use the Zoom Live Track L20 rack mount version, L20R, as my recording interface, and it was chosen. It's fast enough for me. It was chosen because I knew that I was going to be using it in a situation where I thought that I was going to need a whole bunch of inputs and a certain number and type of outputs. So I don't use all the inputs that I thought I was going to use, and that's fine. But I don't use all of the outputs that I thought I was going to use, but the kind of outputs I do use. And finding that combination affordably in a audio interface was not happening. I think if I had to do it again, I would probably I'd do something similar. Let's put it that way. The inputs I've got 20 inputs. 20 inputs and 16 of them have mic preamps as well, and I use 2 mic preamps. I've got 2 mic inputs in my usual configuration. I've got some spares, so if I want to jack a guitar in directly, I can, and use effects in the box with a guitar. It's fast enough that I'm a horrible guitar player, so the processing, the through time, round trip time and latency is good enough that I wouldn't notice the difference. So there's that. And as far as outputs, it's got 6 stereo pairs out, and I can use them either in mono or stereo. So I've got 6 plus the mains, so it's 6 sub mixes, and so that allows me to do things like when we're doing the live jams, for instance, I can monitor the instruments separately from everything else, separately from what's going live. And I can, so I basically have a premix that I can listen to if I want to. I can fold that. I can even fold that premix back into the live audio feed, because the live tracks are live sound mixers first with recording capability. This can record internally 20 tracks plus the left-right mix, so 22 tracks. Can be recorded to an SD card right in the mixer, or I can use it as an audio interface. So it's got all of that functionality in one at a very reasonable price. And so what you give up for that is, in my use case, I'm limited to 48 kilohertz. 48 kilohertz sample rate, and it's a little slow. It's a touch slow, and yeah, it's a multi-track recorder. And to take it a step further, it's hard to do. It's difficult to do on the rack mount version. You have to use the app along an app along with it to get all the functionality out of it. They've got a desktop version, full with faders and the whole thing too. You can record to it and do the mix down in the unit and turn out a finished enough product. If you need to do a quick demo, you can record it in the mixer, spit it out, and hand them the file at the end of the night. And I've got the smaller version as well. I've got the 12 channel version, that's got what, eight mono channels and two stereo channels, to come up with a total of 12 inputs that I use with a little four-piece band that I'm in. We can mix our demos, right? We can mix and record our demos in it if we want to, and use it as our live mixer. And we can, record. We can multi-track record our shows. So it's really, they're really well priced. But again, when you buy a less expensive item, sometimes you do have to make some sacrifices. It probably doesn't have the best mic preamps on the planet. Although there's a lot of YouTube content creators running around with Zoom recorders of some sort or another, and making wonderful audio. They're not bad. It's a very flexible unit that I can do a whole bunch of stuff with, and the price was right. At the listed price on the rack mount version, or the published price on the rack mount version, is typically $800 for a 20 input, or for the 20 input model. Hard to beat. Very hard to beat. So anyway, that's that. I'm looking at I got my script here, and I was going to make some music with microwave, but with it deciding to do its weird thing, I think that's going to be thrown right out. So I'm probably, it's a great price, and they're the only close competition to it. And this is getting into, but we have to then be comparing the desktop units with physical faders. The Tascam model series is the competition, is the closest competition. The reason that, I can't remember what the reason was. Oh, they did not have a rack. I didn't buy Tascam because they didn't have a rack mount version. I might have gone to the Tascam if they'd had a rack mount version of the big one. Now there's other mixers out there that do really well as interfaces as well. The Soundcraft UI24R it's a bit more expensive. It's got a couple more inputs. Its output capability is not quite as flexible. The outputs are not stereo, but it's got 8 mono outputs, submixes, plus the left-right mains, plus 2 stereo headphone outputs that you can use as monitor or submix outputs. There's a way to patch it to do that. And if you don't mind, the big B on the box, the Behringer XR18, is a nice little rack mount. Nice little rack mount mixer. Requires, at a really good price. Requires a. They both require iPads or something to operate them. But of those two, the Soundcraft can also multi-track record in the box. I never used it as an audio interface. It's got the capability, but I never tried it. When I left the 7-piece band that I was in, I sold the PA to one of the members of the band, and that mixer went with it. Never had a chance to hook it up to the computer. So it was more money than I wanted to spend for this studio, and it didn't have the stereo send capability that the Zoom does. So anyway, see, let me look at my list for folks who might be looking at playback, looking at this in playback. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the night, I think. Someone's crashing around outside the door. I guess my wife's doing something out there. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for now. Not much else to say. I'll come up with something else to say for next week. I will be doing, even though for those of us in the States, Monday next is a holiday, I will be doing a stream that night. I don't see any reason not to. And I think that's it. Otherwise, I will see folks on the Discords. I'll twiddle around on the keys a little bit for a few minutes and then fade off into the night. Hans, thanks for coming. Eric, you as well. Eternian and Wabbit and anyone else who is out there lurking. Once again, I'll do the thing because it's what we have to do in YouTube land, and say, whoops, I did it wrong. I'm still learning the Stream Deck and the setup that I did in the Stream Deck. So let me do this right. Go out here and choose my downstream key source and switch it to, let's take this key off air and choose that, and then go there and hit the macro so that it comes up and says like and subscribe. Visit me on the web at GerenM.net, and other than that, I will pretty much see you all around. And thanks for coming. See you later. Jazz note.